Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Neo Marketing Podcast. My name is Kyle Golding. This is Pritch Pritchard, APR, PRSA Fellow. And today, we're going to talk about corporate culture. Spoiler alert, you're probably doing it wrong.
Welcome to the Golding Group Neo Marketing Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion of modern business communication.
Hey, Pritch, good to see you this morning.
Great to see you. Better to be seen than viewed.
That's exactly what they say, of course. We're going to do a couple things today.
Cool.
We're going to talk about corporate culture.
Yep.
I'm going to tell people how they're probably doing it wrong. I'm going to give them some good examples, some bad examples, go through why it's important, what you should be doing. Then I have a bonus question at the end.
All right.
So stay tuned to the end for the bonus question about ethics.
All right.
Professional,
my favorite subject.
Professional ethics. Because I'm going to get at some people. So be prepared for that. So step one, corporate culture.
Yep.
I find a lot of people give a lot of lip service to corporate culture. It's something you're hearing in the media and a lot of communication and podcast and other things like this now.
Right.
People love the idea of corporate culture. The execution is usually crap.
Right.
There's two main reasons that people are failing at corporate culture.
Okay.
Number one, not doing it at all or putting minimal effort in.
Right.
And number two, trying too damn hard.
Interesting.
Right.
Both ends of the spectrum.
Both ends of the spectrum, exactly right. So with that in mind, I'm going to go through the reasons you shouldn't ignore it and the reasons you shouldn't try too hard. We'll explain the value of it a little bit and then give some examples of good corporate culture I've seen with some of our clients and some of the people I work with, and some really bad corporate culture, some of the past bad bosses I've had, and some other things that are pretty good examples of what not to do.
I'm ready.
All right, so here we go. Number one, not trying at all. This doesn't make any sense to me, right? No. And a lot of people will tell you the reason they don't try is that, number one, a CEO or the C-suite says it should happen organically.
Right, and it's going to.
Well, and that's a cop-out.
Yeah, sure.
Hands-off and organic approach is a cop-out.
Right.
It can happen organically, but you have to prompt it along. You have to manage it and sort of squeeze it for benefit, not maximum benefit. Now, don't try in that because that's the second half, trying too hard. Right. But it doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
You have to at least make it potential to happen, give the opportunities for it to happen, and you have to engage from the top down. It starts at the top down, and then as it happens, as your corporate culture develops itself, it starts on the bottom and comes up.
Right.
But you can't just wait for it to happen. You have to nudge it along. You got to get the ball rolling.
It's got to be a priority.
That's right.
Somewhere.
The second reason that a lot of people don't focus on corporate culture, and I just thought of a third one probably, but 1.5, in between 1 and 2, is they don't understand how to start it.
Right.
You just start it by starting it.
Sounds easy.
We're going to give you some examples of that in just a minute. Because you could steal from the best. That's the main thing about anything in business, right? But if you don't know where to start, steal from the best.
Right.
So point 2.
Imitation, highest form of flattery ever.
Yes, for sure. Point 2 being that the value, they don't see the value. They don't understand the value in it. The great thing is when corporate culture is developed correctly, and the stuff that we're going to talk about today, it's not about throwing cash at it.
Right.
It's about putting effort and focus on it, and then going back to that organic conversation by putting focus on and nudging that ball along and then letting it happen. There are times you'll spend some money on it and some time and effort, and it's all internal.
Right.
But there's so much benefit. So the value in a great corporate culture is, number one, it's very little cost or actual cash out for you.
Right.
But number 2, it's all about attracting and retaining the best employees.
Sure.
So
a team.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is more cost effective? Continually attracting new talent that you have to train and ingrain into your system, or I think you already know what the second half of that is.
The first one, of course, because that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Or keeping the people you have and empowering them to do even more in their position.
Exactly.
Come on, folks. We don't have to tell you the answer to this question, right? It is much more cost effective to keep employees, keep them engaged, happy at what they do. Happy employees are productive employees.
Indeed.
And not have to continually be training or trying to ingrain people back into your corporate structure, which then becomes your corporate culture, right?
Yeah.
So low cost, minimal cash out, You nudge it along from the top and then let it build its way up. So minimal effort from the C-suite and from the highly paid folks.
Right.
And then there's high value with your attention and employee management. And then when it comes with that is people sort of living the brand, taking it home with them, being someone who represents your brand well because they take it seriously, they enjoy their job, they tell their friends and family about your product, your service. Right? See all these things?
Yeah.
That's the value in corporate culture, right?
So it's easy, right?
Yeah.
You've got some suggestions on how to make it work.
I do. But before I do that,
Okay.
I want to talk about the second half of how people are failing.
That's right. Yeah.
And that is trying too hard.
Yep.
So the opposite, obviously, the other end of the spectrum is when a CEO shows up one day, and it's typically because they had a meeting with a consultant, and we're guilty of bringing these things up. We're not guilty of doing it in a bad way. And the reason this topic came up is I'm working with a client on how to develop their corporate culture. But meeting with a consultant, they read a blog, they read a book, they heard a podcast, and it said corporate culture is important. And they show up the next day going, hey, everyone, here's all the stuff we're doing. Too much. And also, and this is something I find, this is a sidebar, but typically CEOs are the quickest to destroy a company that they love so much because they want to put themselves all over it, right?
Right.
Interjecting themselves too much of the corporate culture should represent me as a person,
right?
As opposed to the corporate culture should represent the culture, the people within the walls, right? The people that work there and the brand, and then finally, if all of those things align with the CEO, that's fine. I think when you think of CEOs that sort of put their stamp on their business, Richard Branson and Zuckerberg and Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Some certain dynamics. That's funny I said dynamic because Zuckerberg's not dynamic, but Branson is. Richard Branson is. Right. Even there's some others that do it well too, but sometimes non-dynamic, non-great, regular ass CEOs think they have to be the Richard Branson of the company. They don't have to be. It doesn't have to flow down from the CEO.
Well, but celebrity follows if you've got a great culture.
Yes.
Right? Then you become the example.
Exactly. So don't let it be just because the CEO likes it, which is also the same reason you shouldn't change your marketing, you shouldn't change your product, you shouldn't change your approach. Your business model shouldn't be based like because the CEO likes it.
Right.
That kills me.
Drives me insane. That way lays disaster.
That's right. It needs to be organic, but the CEO has to buy in. The CEO has to say corporate culture is important. That's the nudge that we talked about earlier. Right? So that comes from the top down. The key to not trying too hard is to pay attention. Get this, folks. Here's the call quote of the whole episode. Pay attention to small things, not big things. Big things are easy, right?
Right.
We have a new product line. It's the new sales year, Christmas sale, whatever the things that are outward promotions that are big items, new product line in the brand.
Right.
Okay, that's big. Everyone gets that. Everyone pays attention to that.
Right.
It's paying attention to the small stuff, the stuff that actually makes the employees happy to work there, be a part of the process, be those happy employees we discussed earlier,
right.
are typically small stuff.
Yeah.
And in our examples, we'll give you a lot of small examples. It also helps you start because you start small. You don't have to start with a big ta-da.
Right, exactly. It's not to say that you don't pay attention to the big things, but the big things will pay attention to themselves, basically.
Yes, it will.
So it's the little things.
The little things
where the concentration needs to come.
The in-between. So the big things make sense and it's obvious and everyone's working towards it already.
Nobody's going to let a big thing go.
Everyone's paying attention to this year's model of the widget comes out tomorrow. Everyone's already paying attention to that. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. It's 6 months from now. It's in the slog of developing the new product and no one's seeing that outward expression yet. And I was like, how do we keep hustling and grinding? It's because the corporate culture is really good. So the other thing people do when they try too hard is they do the big stuff and then they do the routine stuff, the really obvious stuff. Now, I'm not saying don't do those things. They just can't be the only thing you do. Obviously, being once a year annual meeting type things, which are good, and you should do those. You also should communicate as much as you possibly feel and you can feel comfortable with about your profit and loss, where the company is economically, all of those things like that you should be sharing with your employees.
Absolutely.
It's
Where
2020.
the industry is.
2020, we expect this now, right?
Absolutely.
The other routine things you should do, but you can't make only how you do corporate culture are birthdays, your monthly birthdays, your anniversaries of start dates, big corporate milestones, quarterly reports, all these things should be in there. And it's great to sort of start your calendar with that. Like on the 15th, we have the birthday party for the month, and on the blah, blah, blah. And at the beginning of the year, we do this, that, and the other. That's all fine. If you stop there, you're failing.
Right.
And you've tried, but you've actually tried in a really bad way.
Right.
And please see through that real fast. It's the inauthenticity of it. So do that, and then go back to finding these small fill-ins that are organic. Yep. That's how you end up being in a happy medium between trying too little and trying too hard.
Right.
So I'm going to give you some great examples of good corporate culture, well-developed corporate culture.
Let's go with
Again, it starts top down. It starts with the C-suite getting the ball rolling.
It's a priority.
And then as it becomes a real thing, the C-suite peels back outside of just offering resources and making the availability, saying yes to what happens.
Right.
And then it should come from the bottom up. The employees should drive it. The corporate culture should be the people who work on the assembly line, in the office, on the shop floor, right? So some great examples. And this one, if you guys will go back to the summer while you were teaching in Italy, I had a lot of guests on. One of my guests was Kit Letcher from the BBB in Central Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Kit is amazing at her corporate culture. The corporate culture she's building, she has done, is phenomenal. Some of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And super organic. It's been a 7-year process for her to get to them from the day she took over as president to where they are now.
Right.
She barely ever loses employees, little turnover. Everyone there would go jump in front of a truck for her.
Right.
So go watch the episode. It'll be in the notes. It'll be in the show notes, the link to that episode that we did this summer with Kit Letcher. One of the things I love about the BBB, and there's a ton of things I could do, obviously a whole episode on how Kit did it, but one of them was Waffle Day. So there's a national day for everything, right? Hot dogs, waffles, tacos, kiss your mom, whatever it is, National Entrepreneur Day. These things happen, right?
Right.
The BBB, I saw on their social media that they were doing a Waffle Day. Now, not only did I see it on social media, this is how the team did it right. It was on the Instagram stories. It wasn't an Instagram post. It wasn't a big public thing. It was just the stories. It's the people who already engage with him are looking at what they do.
Right.
And it was just pictures and a little bit of video of them in the break room doing Waffle Day together one morning. Kit springs for the supplies as the boss. The boss buys the supplies. And then here's the key, because it's not about the waffles. It's about the time together.
Right.
Gives everyone a break. Everyone takes time off work to come in and have waffles, make waffles together. It wasn't even that waffles were delivered. They made them together. It's a team building process without being team building.
Right.
And everyone has conversations and they talk to each other. And people who work in different parts of the building are now in the same room in different departments, etc.
Right.
That's the value of Waffle Day. It's not about waffles. It's about the team building process.
Yeah, it's about relationships.
Right. Another great example of great corporate culture are our neighbors next door, DD Audio.
Yeah.
Speaker companies, speakers, amplifiers, etc. All the car audio stuff. Everyone who works there, let's say everyone I've met that works there, they sort of fit the mold of their customers, their clients. So high-end car audio, the dudes, it's typically dudes. Ladies are into it too, right?
Right.
The dudes and ladies who are into the boom, right? The big bass, the rockier stuff.
Right.
And they wear the hats and the t-shirts and they put the stickers on their cars, and it's a real lifestyle for the people who buy everything from DD Audio.
Right.
The same way I buy all Apple products. Some people, there's things that people get just in love with the lifestyle.
Right.
Car audio, definitely high-end car audio, is very much a lifestyle. Most people that work at DD Audio, they know and they come to them from the lifestyle.
Right.
So everyone who works there has a similarity. And it's kind of funny because whenever I'm in the building working with them, they're always like, well, don't ever wear a suit over here, which makes me happy. And I pull my hair down, I put a T-shirt on, and when I go over there, even in a sports coat, they're like, "Who's this guy?" If I go over there, T-shirt and jeans, they're like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" And now I have a DD Auto system in my truck, and so I'm always out in the parking lot, like, "Hey, check me out!" Right. Because the guys and girls that work over there, they're really into it. And it's great for them when it comes to sales and product development because they can talk about what the client is looking for.
Right.
But they all relate to each other.
Yeah.
And they talk to each other, and they live the lifestyle. They live the brand off the clock.
Right.
That you can't buy that.
Nope.
But you can promote it. You can organize it. You develop it. Right. Exactly. And so their sales staff are inside sales. They're on the phone, right?
Right.
So they're not customer facing. They're not seeing customers on the regular basis, right?
Right.
So they get to dress casually. They get to have the hair and the tattoos and stuff like that. They get to be who they are.
Right.
And then they can relate to the dealers and distributors that they talk to on the phone, the customers they talk to on the phone, and they go to these events.
Right.
And they have their own personal social media and blogs and stuff about their car system. Of course, it's all So they face they're the same thing as same lifestyle as the clients, but they're the same lifestyle as each other.
Right.
And they take that serious, and it's authentic and it's real.
Yeah.
And they get to talk about on their breaks. They talk about the system they put in their car, the upgrade, or something that they did for their car audio,
or some new tech that they just saw.
They're living the lifestyle all day long. And
absolutely.
So you really can't. And then they get a little protective. Like say when outsiders come in,
right.
It took me a while to get, and I got to just know these guys to talk about. And I have a background in pro audio,
right?
And even then they were like, "Yeah, sure, right. You're the corporate guy from next door." I'm like,
right.
No, I'm not the corporate guy.
Right.
I'm the dude in the black t-shirt and long hair. I'm like, I'm cool like you guys, right? They were like, "You're not one of us, and so we're not sure about you."
Right.
Now, 2 years of working with them
right.
and being relaxed around them and getting to, kind of prove myself a little bit.
Right.
I'm a little bit more accepted into their culture. They're really protective of each other, which makes them a really good working unit.
Right.
Great example of working together. Right?
Absolutely.
So here are some bad examples. And
okay.
I find you can learn a lot more in life from bad examples to good examples.
Well, and mistakes, right? You can learn from some of my best lessons are my mistakes.
I could absolutely tell you I've learned more from bad bosses than I have good bosses.
Yeah, that's true.
And here's some good example of that for sure. I had a boss. It's a tech company, making a ton of money. Everyone was getting rich. They were kind of the big player in their industry. And he wouldn't admit it, but he was a drunk. He was an alcoholic. High functioning alcoholic.
Gotcha.
There was a bar next door.
Oh, dude.
And he wanted to hold all the meetings at the bar. He wanted to be the cool boss.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the boss that everyone liked. So not only did we hold every meeting, every meeting. There was no such thing as using the conference room outside of special guests from the outside coming in.
Right.
Every internal meeting was next door at the bar. It was one of those bars too, where like there's no windows, like the middle of the day you're in a cave. And then he bought he had an open tab.
Oh, right.
And so all you had to do is go over there and show your badge, and you drank for free all the time, all day, every day. If you're with him, you got to drink free.
Dude.
And some people took great advantage of that, right? I'm not going to go sip a beer. I'm going to go get the most expensive they have and take shots and do the mixed drinks and do the whole thing, right?
Right.
And he didn't care that we got drunk and then went back to work. He thought he was building corporate culture.
Right.
He was killing the corporate culture
right.
because it became very focused on people who were selfish and just trying to get for themselves,
right.
and people that were looking to goof off instead of work.
Right.
And so he was the cool boss, but they weren't being very productive.
Not at all.
Right.
And you can't be productive if you go back to work buzzed.
No.
Right?
That was the point. Yeah, it's like 3 days a week. I was only getting half day work done because by time, and he wasn't one of those 4 o'clock dude. He was like 12:15. Let's go get some drinks.
Oh, dude.
It wasn't 4 o'clock.
Sun over the yard arm. Let's go for it.
Yeah. So they thought they had, and they would, and everyone who worked there would be like, "This is so cool." It wasn't. It was terrible. And when I left, I was like, "Thank goodness I'm out of that."
Yeah.
Another place I worked that had sort of an artificial corporate culture that the bosses thought was working really well and keeping the employees happy, and the employees were just taking advantage, gigging the system. Was a sales for a particular product in the recreational industry, phone sales to dealers and distributors, and they had scheduled breaks, and they had ping pong and foosball. And on your scheduled break, you got to go play ping pong and foosball with each other.
Right.
Now, that was the guys on the phone. They had regular scheduled breaks, and it was sort of a structured kind of thing.
Right.
I was in the marketing department. I wasn't on the phone on the regular. My schedule was a lot more fluid, but trust me, I took my breaks with those guys to go play foosball, right?
Right.
Like in the movie The Waterboy, right? Foosball is the devil because within 5 minutes of break time, those guys, it was all guys, but they stopped taking calls stop making calls.
Right.
They wanted to be first in line to play foosball.
Right.
And if they were last in line to play foosball, they were mad about it. And
Right.
if someone dominated the foosball table, they were pissed at that dude all day long. They didn't want to talk to him anymore.
Right.
And if they were, damn, I guess I'll play ping pong instead, they were almost begrudging about playing ping pong on their break. Right. Same place kind of had like if you hit your numbers, you get your bonus, but then that day, last hour of the day, we'll knock off early, we'll bring in a keg of beer, which was fun and good, and the idea was right, but those guys got super focused on the numbers,
right.
Which was fine, but it was all about getting their bonus check
right.
and getting to take half a day off and drink beer at
right.
work for free.
Right.
And that was their focus. It was
all about them. It wasn't about the organization.
Yes, it wasn't about developing a relationship with your people you're selling to.
Yeah.
It was about breaking down and getting those numbers, which is the third example of bad corporate culture. Remember Glenn Ross, right? ABC, always be closing, right?
Right.
The idea, coffee's for closers, right? There's great quotes in that movie that comes from the play, but the idea of push,
right.
and we're in this to take people's heads off and to make the sales and make money, and then you
right.
can go home and do whatever you want. That's a terrible, toxic corporate culture.
Absolutely.
And it happens more often than you would think.
There's a lot of Wall Street organizations that are like that, for
right.
sure.
And then finally, the last thing you want to do when it comes to corporate culture is sort of try to build positive from negative. And that comes from an us versus them attitude. Now, it's easy to say us versus them, us versus the competition, right? Everyone understands, sure, let's go take on the competition, right? We've talked 100 times on this podcast about you don't go compete with your competition to beat them. You go to find your audience and be the best you can be in your industry, right? It's not about winning versus your competition. It's about providing something that you do it the way you do it, audience.
And differentiating yourself from
right,
the competition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If your corporate culture is, we're company A and we're going to kill company B.
Right.
It's a terrible corporate culture because you get into this mindset of win at all cost, and it's not about providing value to your customers that can be repeatable, et cetera. It's about making sales numbers, making your bonus, get the shortcut, and in the long run, it's bad for your company.
Yep.
A lot of companies, too, though, will also, and sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally, create us versus them within departments.
Oh, yeah.
It's marketing versus sales versus engineering.
Politics, internal politics.
Yes. And it was funny because the marketing department everyone hated the marketing department because we spent money and we got to do the fun stuff.
Right.
And then sales department were like, we need this from marketing. And marketing will say, we need this from sales, or we need this from product development, or we need this from engineering. And it was a cycle of, I'm waiting on them, so you're waiting on me, so you're waiting on them. And everyone's sort of pushing the blame on each other and pointing at each other. And none of that leads to innovation or communication that makes the process better.
It's not teamwork.
No, exactly. It's a corporate culture of actually competing against other departments.
Yeah.
And that could be very toxic.
Absolutely.
As well. I've actually had bosses who kind of encouraged it.
Yeah.
Who
sure.
in our meetings were like, we're marketing, screw everyone else. And if they don't like it,
right.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
it's a bad boss. They thought they were sort of protecting us or, creating value and pride in what we did.
Right.
But what they were really doing was creating divisions between people and the entity of the company that should all be working together and collaborating.
Yep.
And so they really missed that opportunity. So if you think of corporate culture trying too little or too hard, think of back when you were in grade school, you had a substitute teacher, right? Typically, a substitute teacher comes in, and all they want to do is get through the day without incident, right? They put on a movie, they play a film, they give you a book report to write or something, busy work, right? Something to entertain you or something to keep you busy. And it never was about actually, hey, as a substitute, I should get to know these students or to give them something of value and engage in them, et cetera, because they were just trying to get through the day. They weren't trying to be a team member. So corporate culture done poorly is a substitute teacher model. So these are the ways that I find positive and negative, good and bad, about how people go about corporate culture. Like we started with, it starts top down with a nudge, but it should come bottom up. The corporate culture value to the C-suite is what you learn when you let people do what they do.
Right.
When you let employees interact with each other and communicate with each other. When you have not an us versus them mentality, but we all work together, collaboration mentality. When you give people the freedom
be who they are and express what makes them happy about coming to work, about why they would continue to be your employee, why they would recruit their friends or people they know to come work for you,
right.
Retention, attraction, etc. When all those things happen because people feel good about their job and they're happy to be there, then what the C-suite learns and the value of and the cost reduction and the continuity of business makes the business better. That's why corporate culture is important. It's all of those things combined to really have a low-cost, high-impact benefit for business if you don't push too hard, but you pay attention.
I'm reading a new book that I think will supplement exactly what you're saying right now. It's The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Patrick Lencioni is the author, and I picked it up because it's about teamwork. It's about but as you were talking, I'm ticking through everything that I've heard, and it's a book about culture.
Yeah,
more than it is
because
about
culture
teamwork.
And teamwork go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And it's the same ideas of how you build a good corporate culture is how you build a good team.
Yeah.
And really, corporate culture is an expansion of the team, right?
Expansion of the team.
It goes back to those department issues. You have teams
right.
and departments, and the departments you have the organization, and when you're working together collaboratively, et cetera.
Yeah.
So there's
cool.
There's a ton of benefit to paying attention to corporate culture, doing it in the right way, being as organic as possible, but being engaged in managing a process, moving it along forward. And then the ultimate last piece of not trying too hard is corporate culture is for you internally. It's to make a great place to work. It's to make your employees feel that way and believe that and tell people that. A lot of people then want to turn right around and use it as a marketing tool.
Right.
It's a good marketing tool, but it goes back to the reason it was important. I saw Pancake Day for the BBB on an Instagram story instead of an ad campaign.
Right.
Was stories are where these casual one-offs, it disappears in 24 hours kind of thing go.
Right.
If someone's really paying attention because maybe they want to work there or one of their friends works there or they really find value in the BBB, they see the stories and they think good things about that place in their corporate culture. It's sort of like if you have to tell people how cool you are, you're really not that cool.
That's right.
If you have to tell people you have great corporate culture, you probably
don't.
Much like if your CEO has to tell people how cool, smart, great, brilliant he is or she, then they're probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, and I've been accused of that plenty of times in my life.
We all.
So, importance of corporate culture is really great for a company, but and no two are the same.
Right.
So you can't just go, hey, let's do how they do it at Apple. Let's see how they do it at Facebook.
Right.
Let's see how they do it at Nike. You have to develop what works for you.
Right.
Not based on the CEO, but based on the employees.
Yeah.
And then just let it happen, but encourage it.
Great advice.
There you go. I promised a bonus question.
Yes, you did.
Now, here's what's interesting about the bonus question, ladies and gentlemen. Pritch does not know what I'm going to ask him.
Nope.
Has no idea. He's going to give me his honest opinion. We might agree. We might disagree. We might be somewhere in the middle.
Right.
But I'm going to push you on this.
Okay.
I feel strongly.
All right.
So back in the when I was in college, I had my favorite public relations professor, Sandra Martin, was very emphatic about it. I drilled it in my head, and it still stays in my head today. Attorneys, doctors at some point, but some professions, but definitely attorneys and legal experts should not advertise.
Right.
Right?
That was a big deal when lawyers got to advertise on TV.
That's right. Traditional thought.
Right.
Advertisers and to some extent doctors too, like your heart surgeon shouldn't be advertising like, come get a heart surgery for $9.95.
Right. Earl Scheib
yes.
of heart surgery.
Now, of course, this was back when advertising and was TV and radio, print.
Right.
It wasn't social media. It wasn't digital. It was beginning to become digital at that time. And so the methods have changed. But for me, the ethics and the theory behind why they shouldn't advertise is, again, it goes back to, the idea of an ambulance chaser or taking advantage or trying to make money off of your misery or your bad luck or your negative situation you're in.
Right.
Number one. Number two, of course, you want your doctor, your attorneys, and to some extent maybe your CPA and other financial analysts to come from people you know and trust giving a referral.
Okay.
Right? Now, it doesn't mean that these professions can't communicate what they do and the value of who they are.
All right.
But straight running a TV commercial, a radio commercial, or an ad that says hire us. There's one on TV right now with this guy. I don't know him, so I don't know if I'm going to say his name because I don't know him personally. But he says, and it's a nickname even. It's not even his full name, professional name. He uses a nickname, and I win. You call me, and we'll sue someone, and we'll win.
And we'll win, right.
Very unprofessional to me. It's a big turnoff to me. So I'm very much like that should never happen. And I would say no one should ever hire these attorneys that you see on TV doing that tactic. So what's your take on that? That's the shocker here. What's your take?
Okay. Well, I agree. Now, I will say that yes, you get referrals from friends and neighbors, but sometimes you can't find somebody who has dealt with that. So I think it's critically important that lawyers, doctors, medical centers provide information with which I can make a decision.
Right.
But going on TV if you were in a shipyard in the 1950s, then you may have mesothelioma. I can't even say it. Right, asbestos.
Right, let's sue those bastards.
No, yes. I agree. I think that's absolutely unethical.
So as a PR professional, because PR is not sales driven. PR is not about pitching the sale. It's about communicating ideas about a brand, about what happens, the value of, etc. in a non-sales cycle, right? So as a PR professional, what are some options that if someone right now is like, I'm an attorney, what am I supposed to do if I can't run commercials? What should they do?
Well, all of the things that we advise our clients to do. Have a website presence, use your social media. I mean, testimonials from former patients or former clients.
Right.
Is that third-party endorsement,
right,
that information that people are looking for? So I don't think they need to do anything special outside of what an ethically grounded organization would do.
Yes, and that's essentially the advice I would give. If you were to throw that question to me, that would have been the advice I'd give it back is, educate people, tell them your story, who you are, why you do what you do, what is important about it, right, the type of people you serve, the type of people you help. But it can't be a closing sales pitch. I will go in. Let's go sue them. Let's get your money. We don't get paid until you get paid. Those are sales pitches.
Right.
And it feels unethical to me for people in those professions to pitch sales.
I agree. I had eye surgery over the holidays, and the Dean McGee Eye Clinic. Here's a free plug for them. They're awesome.
They are great. Yes.
But in the lobby, they had some banners about recent awards, a Lifetime Achievement Award from one of my doctors.
There you go.
And to me, that wasn't salesy at all. That was, hey, this person's on the top of the heap.
Right.
And I like that.
And it was in place. Like, that wasn't a billboard out on the street, and it wasn't something invasive. No. It was just simply telling you, now that you're here, you can trust what we're doing.
Absolutely.
It definitely didn't say, get the surgery over this one, or spend the extra $200 for the better surgery, right?
Indeed. The first time I went to an ophthalmologist for this, I felt like I was getting a bum's rush.
There you go.
Here's $5,000 lens. It'll solve all your problems. I left them as fast as I possibly could because it reminded me of those lawyers on TV.
I had a experience with a dental. I've got some gum disease. I have to have fixed, right? It's surgery, right? So I went to my dentist, referred me to a specialist, best that there is in this. But they spent 5 minutes diagnosing me, and then immediately didn't sit down and explain what it is, how it happened, how you prevent it in the future.
Right.
But instead walked me into the finance department.
Oh, right.
So that I could get on a payment plan.
Right.
Huge. Yeah, I did not choose that. Right. Not working with that doctor because the whole time I sat in the finance office, I was like, you've treated me like a number and economics as opposed to a doctor-patient relationship.
Right. Exactly.
And so doctors, attorneys, et cetera.
Which is akin to advertising about your services.
It's all about your approach,
Provide your services, explain your value, and then if the situation's right, if the need is there and someone understands what it is you do, then you can have a transaction.
Absolutely.
But you can't push it in those areas because it's based on sort of your negative situation, your misery, if you will.
I would say not even transaction, but a relationship.
Yes.
Because for a doctor and for a lawyer, it's a very personal thing for the individual. So, again, going back to your question about what advice, build those relationships in a relational, not a transactional way.
Fantastic. I think that's perfect. That sums us up. That's going to end this episode of the Marketing Podcast. This was a great topic. Corporate culture, a great little bonus question. I didn't know what Pritch would say. I'm happy to hear that he agrees with me and he didn't scold me for being old-fashioned.
We're on the same sheet of music.
We are. So that's that for this week.
Yep.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of the No Marketing Podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. Make sure you check us out on social media. Make comments below if you like, dislike, agree, disagree with anything we said. Hit us up on social media, ask questions, or give us topics that we might cover them in the future. Until then, good luck.
Ciao.